Hello and welcome to today's video. Today marks over 400 years since the first enslaved Africans were brought to America. Research studies reveal that the first Africans arrived in 1619 on a White Lion ship commanded by a Dutchman John Jope when it docked at Point Comfort, Virginia, currently known as Fort Hampton. The enslaved African men, women, and children were believed to have been captured from the kingdoms of Congo and Ndongo in the West African region. When the ship was hijacked by two English pirate ships and docked in Virginia, more than half of the captives had died during the journey. About 350 enslaved Africans on board the Juan Bautista ship were captured from Africa when they came across the White Lion and the Treasurer, English ships, which seized the ship with the remaining 50 to 60 Africans. Most Africans had died due to diseases and hunger while on transit. The arrival of the ships was documented by John Rolfe, who noted in his letter to Sir Edwin Sandys that 20 and odd Negroes Africans were on board the ship. The then governor Sir George Yardley and Abraham Piercy, the head merchant, bought most of the captives and kept them in Jamestown, which marked the first permanent settlement for the Englishmen. The African captives would then be put to work in the tobacco fields that had just been established. However, most laborers in America included the Native Americans and white European indentured servants who worked in the white compatriots' fields. These 20 African captives did not mark the end of slavery but contributed to the demand for enslaved Africans into the American colonies. The increasing demand for African captives in the American colonies was made possible through the transatlantic slave trade that had taken root during the 17th century. From the 16th to the 19th century, the transatlantic slave trade was the world's largest and most racialized forced migration of people. The transatlantic slave trade was part of a larger system of trafficking that included West and Central Africa, North and South America, and Western Europe. European traders in African ports exchanged clothes, beads, metals, guns, and ammunition for African captives brought from the interior parts of Central Africa, such as Elmina, present-day Ghana, Bunce Island, present-day Sierra Leone, and Gorée Island, present-day Senegal. They shipped them through the Atlantic Passage through the Atlantic Ocean. The total number of captives captured and shipped through the transatlantic slave movement is recorded in the Transatlantic Slave Database. According to the database records, an estimated 12.5 million enslaved people from 1525 and 1866 were shipped to the New World during the entire slavery period. About 10.7 million survived during the passage. However, the proportion of enslaved Africans shipped directly to America comprised about 388,000 Africans. Although Africans and Europeans had practiced forced labor before the onset of American slavery across the Mediterranean Sea for centuries, they had not based enslavement on race. However, the genesis of the transatlantic slave trade during the 15th century was commercialized on racial ideas. The enslaved people would be seen not as humans but as commodities meant for buying, selling, and exploitation. The sale of the 20 and odd Negroes thus set the course for African American slavery in America, despite Africans having arrived in America since the 1500s.